Beyond Yogasiddhi by Swami Sri Atmananda. We entered the process of yoga, and through our sadhana we have stilled the Chittavrittis, burnt our samskaras, and through Abhyasa have arrived at the state of Vairagya. We are now entering the culmination of the process as we enter the states of Samadhi. Samadhi is a very popular word, and almost every seeker thinks they know what it means. But when we go through the different stages in the process of yoga, we find that most of what we knew about Samadhi is actually a myth. Samadhi is not a state of static consciousness, a silent and still absorption. Samadhi does not make a yogi immobile or incapable of discharging his duties and responsibilities. Samadhi transforms a yogi into a perfect human being. In our series of talks, we have understood the whole process of sadhana that leads to Samadhi. In this final talk, Swami Atmananda ji tells us that Samadhi is a state of consciousness where the yogi is not identified with anything in the experiential side of life. The yogi simply experiences the objects through the senses, using his mind to discharge the responsibilities in the outer world, but always retaining his awareness of the all-pervading I. The process of yoga through the power of Samadhi allows us to reach this state of dynamic consciousness of the all-pervading I and to be able to function perfectly in individual and social life. Samadhi is not a state of only experiencing sattvic bliss. Samadhi is a state of consciousness when the yogi is experiencing his own state, his own nature. Samadhi enables the yogi to live a complete life in the waking plane without having any thought. There are 4 layers of Samadhi. Each layer is a state of consciousness, and to reach the 4th layer of consciousness, the yogi practices pranayama constantly. This Abhyasa will automatically push the yogi to the state of Vairagya, which is the higher state of dispassion, enabling the yogi to retain the state of awareness even while fully responding to the signals that come from Prakriti. We now present preparation for Samadhi through sadhana and an introduction to Savikalpa Samadhi.
Great aspiring yogis, today we will discuss about Samadhi and the sadhana that is needed to enter in the state called Samadhi. Let me tell you from the very beginning that like your other states of consciousness, waking, dreaming, sleeping, transcendental, unity, these are all states of consciousness or the Chit. Samadhi also is a state of consciousness. The difference is, in this state of consciousness, nothing is reflected except you, the being, the awareness. That means there is no organic world. The world of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. And there is no mind also. And there is no intellect also. And in the final state of Samadhi, there is no ego also. Asmita, there is the I-ness. But in today's talk, I will explain only that state of Samadhi where the asmita will be there, but it is not the asmita, it is not the I of the waking, dreaming, sleeping, transcendental, or even the God plane of consciousness. It is the unity plane of consciousness, but that unity plane, that Advaita Chetana, is not the permanent Advaita, the Brahma. That is the subject matter of another aspect of Samadhi. So, let us begin right from the very first concept. What is Samadhi? Those of you who are familiar with the Yoga Darsana, you know, in the state of Samadhi, only that is present. Tadevartha matra nirvasa swarupam sunyamiva samadhi. Swarupamiva. Only swarupa is there. Your own state is there. Own state is the state where nothing else is present. That is Samadhi. To make it very simple in my own experiential language, I will say, Sarva Chinta Parityago Nischantam Yoga Uchyate. When you reach a state of absolute thoughtlessness, and you have reached a state of Nischala, what Lord Krishna said in Gita. When your chit is Nischala and Achala, means whatever is happening around you, nothing is able to distract you from your state of Nischala. And let us, from the very beginning, understand that Samadhi is not a state when the person is not able to do anything. Samadhi is a state when a person is able to do everything without getting derailed from his state of pure awareness. To reach this state, one has to have repeated experience of the being. So it becomes a practice. Abhyasa, and practice is the second nature. Because of this repeated abhyasa of what? Abhyasa of experiencing the awareness, automatically the seeker reaches the state of Vairagya. Only that is present. What is that? The awareness. One is completely experiencing the awareness. In the beginning stage, it comes just for some time. Then, if the Abhyasa is continuing, it gets longer and longer and longer. Then you reach a state of static Samadhi. Means, as long as you are completely, consciously delinked from the objective world, you are experiencing that. But when you are entering into the objective world of experience, then slowly it is fading out. So the first is experiencing for some time. For that reason, we have to sit in meditation. But meditation without the preparation will not give you a real experience of the being. I have experienced it from my own life. There is a saying, and I am telling it from the scripture, a very easy way, how you will prepare for Samadhi. Here is a prescription, and it is coming from one of the scripture, we call it Skanda Purana. Pranayama disatkena pratyahara udahrita. Sat means 6. Dvisat means 2 into 6, that is 12. If you are sitting for pranayama, 12 sitting of pranayama is equal to 1 pratyahara. Why we are told to do pranayama every day? Why pranayama is the entry point to inner sadhana? Because of this. Because prana controls the mana, the mind. So, pranayam dissatkena pratyahara udahrita. So, those of you who are actually doing the sadhana for samadhi, you must remember, you should never stop your pranayama. And there are so many types of pranayama, but you learn from a qualified, a competent and experienced teacher who can teach you a technique of pranayama which is easy for your system. There are 8 types of major pranayama. Sahita pranayama, Brahmari pranayama, Ujjiri pranayama, Bhastika pranayama, all that. But you have to search a qualified and experienced teacher who can study your system and can prescribe you a particular type of pranayama, and you have to do it. So 12 pranayama is 1 pratyahara. Remember the sequence. Jama, Niyama, Asana. These are the Bahiranga sadhana, the outer limb of sadhana for samadhi. Then is pranayama, pratyahara, dhyana, dharana. These 4 are called the antaranga. But pranayama is first Bahiranga and next antaranga. When you are doing pranayama consciously, closing one side of the nostril, doing it, counting in hand, using a timer, that is called the Bahiranga pranayama, the outer pranayama. So people can know, oh, he is doing pranayama. It's visible. But when you have some mastery with this Bahiranga pranayama, outer pranayama, you enter into the antaranga, the inner pranayama. In inner pranayama, you don't have to close your nose. You don't have to use your finger. You don't have to do it with ida, pingala. No. You just sit and you are taking the prana. Now here is the very beginning step of a samadhi sadhana. When you are doing Bahiranga pranayama, you are simply closing one side of the nose and inhaling. So what are you doing? You are actually inhaling the air. And when you are doing that, oxygen is entering into your body. Oxygen is necessary for keeping all the organs of your physical body in a vibrating state. Yogically speaking, I don't call it pranayama. It is not the regulation of a prana. We call it swasa. Regulation of swasa, not regulation of prana. Those of you who want to do the sadhana of samadhi, for you, I recommend that you first have some mastery over the outer pranayam. Then when your system is ready, that you can do pranayam without using your finger, closing the nose, this. You sit quietly and then you inhale the prana. Inhaling the air is different from inhaling the prana. What is prana? Prana is Jivana Shakti, the life force. And the life force is present everywhere. In Gita, Lord Krishna says, Jivanang Sarvabhutesu. I am the life force in all beings. So, this life force which is present around you, over you, below you. It is also present in you. But you have to consciously invite this life force to enter into you. So when you are inhaling, start thinking, start feeling that you are now inhaling the prana, that is the life-sustaining, life-nourishing force. This life-sustaining, life-nourishing force is not the oxygen. It is the posaka. It is the nourishing tattva. What in Vedas says, iketvarjitva urja. It is the life-sustaining energy. And it comes through air. Isetvarjitva bhayavastha. Yajurveda first mantra says this. Iketvarjitva bhayavastha devova savita. And this comes from the Savita. Savita mandal, like we have an earth plane, there is also other planes, and there is called a Savita plane, which is an energy plane, life-sustaining, life-nourishing zone. From there, you are inhaling this prana. When you finish this type of pranayama 12 times, means 12 sitting, you have done one pratyahara. Now, when you will complete 12 such pratyahara, that means 144 sitting of pranayama when you have done, then you have done one dharana. Pranayama vishatkena pratyahar udahrita. Pratyahari dvadarshaive dharana. I am giving to you the way I entered into Samadhi state. So when you are doing 12 sitting of pranayama, you are having one sitting of pratyahara. Then when you have completed 12 sitting of pratyahara, you have done one sitting of dharana. When you have done 12 sitting of dharana, you have done one sitting of dhyana. And when you have really completed 12 sitting of dhyana, you have done one sitting of samadhi. Pranayam tishatkena pratyahar udahrita. Pratyahari dvadasevir dharana parikirtita. So, dvadasa dharana is dhyana. Then dvadasakeneva dhyanam samadhi ichyate. When you have done 12 times of dhyana, then your system is ready for samadhi. Now you can understand why pranayam is the entry door to inner limbs of sadhana, yoga sadhana. Why I said Vairagya you need not practice. Vairagya is a product of Abhyasa. When you are doing this practice of Jama, Niyama, Asana, these are all outer limbs, but I am not giving so much of emphasis on the outer, because every awakened yogi has some sort of self-control on Jama, Niyama and Asana. That is why I am giving emphasis on pranayama. But this pranayama you must learn from someone who has the knowledge of your system. Yours might be tamasic system, yours might be rajasic system, yours might be a sattvic system. And a teacher can assess the state of your evolution and will recommend you a pranayama technique. And you have to very sincerely follow his advice if you really want to enter into the Samadhi state. So when you will experience the past state of Samadhi, that is called the first layer. It is 4 layers of Samadhi. In 4 different stages of a Samadhi experience. In Yoga Shastra, these are called Vitarkanubhava, Vicharanubhava, Anandanubhava, Asmitanubhava. The 4. So, to make it very easy to understand, I am telling you, you have to first find a teacher. Otherwise, it is not possible. And the teacher studies your system and then he decides whether your path is through yoga or through jnana. If it is through yoga, the teacher will recommend you the path of Samadhi through pranayama, dharana, dhyana and Samadhi. But if your path is through gyana, the teacher will recommend you a technique of constant Atma-chintana, Brahma-chintana. So, here I am going to explain both the paths. The first path I told, that's a yoga path, where pranayama is a foundational compulsion. But suppose your system is weak, you do not have that strong sense control, your vital is not so strong. Does it mean that there is no possibility for you to enter into the being? I was thinking for a long time, maybe this is not possible for me. But my Gurudev said, yes, it's absolutely possible. It's absolute for every human being. Because to be in the state of the being is the birthright of every embodied being. So what is the other path? The other path is the jnana path. Why we call it jnana path? Because in the scripture it is said, all the Mahatmas said, Nasti Sankhya Samang Jnanam, Nasti Yoga Samang Balang. There cannot be something higher than the knowledge of this Sankhya. What is that? Purusha and Prakriti. And there cannot be something stronger than this yoga. You control your prana, you can have unimaginary power. You can have power to do anything in this elemental world. So, when we are preparing for Samadhi, depending on your system, your teacher or your guru can recommend you whether you have to be exclusively in Yoga Marga or you are in Jnana Marga. Or the guru can even combine some of the Yoga Marga and some of the Jnana Marga and then give you your own unique track. So, what happens actually? Our goal is Sarva Chinta Parityaga Nischintan Yoga Uchyate. We are aiming at reaching a state of absolute thoughtlessness even when in waking consciousness. So when you reach that state, what happens? That time, the Jivatma and the Paramatma both are one. In Yoga Marga, it is called the Savikalpa in Sampragyat Samadhi. In Yoga Marga, those are pursuing the path through yoga, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. It is called Sampragyanta. In Jnana Marga, it is called Savikalpa. Both are same, but the terminology is different. So, when one is following this path of yoga, his system must be very strong. But for the modern man, it is not possible. Very rare for yogis to find out who has absolute sense control, absolute mind control, able to remain detached even while remaining in sansara life. So for them, the way is, let them pursue the gyana path. In gyana path, the samadhi is the same, but it has a different type of a preparation. That is, in samadhi, what happens? The dheya means the object, the goal is the being, the awareness. When our experience is merged, dissolved in awareness. So, in Jnana path, we take it. It is two types. One is the sthula, and is the sukma. The gross and the subtle. The preparation is from the gross and subtle. So, this gross is also of two layers. One is called the objective gross. The other is called the subjective gross. The subtle is also two types. One is the spiritual subtle and the spiritual gross. So, because of this two, that is why this samadhi is in 4 layers or 4 stages. Outer gross, outer subtle. Inner gross and inner subtle. These 4 are expressed through 4 different terminology. Savitarka samadhi, savichar samadhi, and then ananda and asmita. Now, how to prepare? You have to have, whether it is a yoga path or a gyana path, you have to have some grounding on pranayama. This is the reason that those who are doing TT, they make a rapid progress because they are grounded on some sort of pranayama. So, when you are having no difficulty in your pranayama technique, then you can decide whether you will go in the jnana way, that is the contemplation way, ascension way, or the yoga way, that's the diving way. Through yoga, through the control of, through this pushing of the prana down and then raising of the prana up, that's the yoga way. But constant contemplation on the awareness is the jnana way. The 4 types are actually 4 stages. And these are the vitarkanugata, vicharanugata, asmitanugata, anandanugata. Now what is the vitarka? The past stage. The past stage in the yoga marga, those who are following the yoga stage, what they do? That when they are taking the prana out after reaching the Muladhara, this apana, as they go through their inhalation, as they go step by step, patch by patch, incremental, in incremental ratio they take the prana, then they come with the same way. The apana they are consciously bringing to the samana. So apana is merging with the samana. Then this samana is coming up, is merging with the prana. That is called a prana pana samana yo. So apana merge with the samana, samana merge with the prana, prana merge with the udana, and then udana got released as Vyana. So Vyana is the prana shakti that is present all over the body. So when you are releasing this prana, you are conscious of Vyana. So in 5 incremental slabs, we inhale, we exhale. This is yoga way. Now, if you come to the gyana way, first is you are in a vitarka state. What is the vitarka state means? You are focusing your consciousness on something gross, some gross idea, object, thought, concept in a jnana way. But if it is yoga way, you are focusing your consciousness on that prana what you are pushing up or taking down. If you are doing it continuously, you will experience that when you are there, nothing else is remaining. Only these words are vibrating. And a time comes when you don't have to consciously do it. The moment your prana goes, you will get that vibration. How? Because when the prana vibrates udana, there will be a vibration in your throat chakra. You can feel. That time you can hear some sound. When your prana vibe is moving to the heart chakra, you will have the feeling of devotion, of love. You can have the vision of the God of your heart. When it's moving down to your Manipuraka, your Samana, you can that time experience the thoughts of a pure gyana, some inner light, some intuitive flash will come up. And when it goes down to the apana, then some of your sanskaras comes to your surface, and that indicates the sanskara is now burnt, it's washed away. So any experience that is coming to you when you are doing the yoga kriya of samadhi practice, these are all welcome signs. But now when you are coming to the jnana marga, you have to have two types. One is videha laya and prakriti laya. In Patanjali Yoga Darshana, this also is explained. Bhava pratyaya videha prakriti layanang. Those who are following the jnana marga, what they will have? That the first layer of samadhi is avidya pratyaya. Then the other layer of samadhi is vidya pratyaya. So how they do? They sit after doing this pranayama. Without pranayama, no entry into the inner zone. So after pranayama, what comes? Pratyahara. So those who are following the jnana marga, if they have done the pranayama practice sufficiently, they will reach the state of pratyahara. Here also the rule is same, that 12 sitting of pranayama is one pratyahara. 12 sitting of pratyahara is one dharana. The rule is same. So what happens? That when they sit, then they first experience the thoughts pertaining to the gross world of their sadhana, not the gross world of their bhoga, not the gross thought of their objective experience. They will first have the the thoughts of the gross subjective experience. Oh, this thought of the sadhana, that deity, that teacher, this will come. But they have to consciously keep their mind away from this, and they have to simply focus on the any of the tanmatras, the 5 tanmatras, that is this is Sabda, Sparsa, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha, the sound and the touch, the sight, the smell. It's this tanmatra. And what is the object? Sound is a tanmatra, but the sound of a motor car is not a tanmatra, it's the object. Sound is tanmatra, sabda is tanmatra. But when this is expressed through something gross, that is called the object. The jnanis, they do not focus in the first stage of samadhi. They don't focus on the object, they focus on the nature of this object. Like a flower. Suppose it's a red flower. They are not focusing their consciousness on the flower petal. They are only focusing their consciousness on the color, the red. So, when they do this, slowly, the petals will wither away. What remains is the color only. They focus on the sound only, the sound, but not the sound that is coming through any object. Then they focus on the sensation, that is a sparsa. They focus on the taste, like a sweet, but not they are thinking of rasgola or laddu. Sweet. This is taste. So, Jnana Margis, they can focus on this, provided they have sufficient Vairagya already stored in that system. But if there is no Vairagya, there is Anuraga. Means there is still pull for objective experience. It will be difficult for them. So how a jnani should practice this? A jnani should practice this with a resolve that I am not going to put excessive effort to get something which my vital wants or my mental wants or my senses wants. I will allow Prakriti to give it if Prakriti feels it is needed for me. That is what I practiced. If Prakriti feels it is necessary, Prakriti will give. I will neither ask nor demand nor desire. For jnanis, this practice is a must. This is called the Abhyasa. Practicing Abhyasa so that Vairagya comes automatically. And when this is going on, pranayama is also going on every day, 2 sitting. And when this pranayama is 12 sitting pranayama, means 1 pratyahara. The system is ready for pratyahara, but pratyahara, 1/12 of pratyahara success will come. 24 sitting pranayama, now 2 by 12, 3 by 12, 4 by 12. When you get 12 by 12, the jnana is established in pratyahara. He will not struggle to drive away his thoughts. No. It is my direct experience I am telling. So, Prakriti is getting vilaya in Purusha. Purusha is awareness, Prakriti is experience. So, while remaining in the body, the Prakriti of the Purusha, the embodied being, is getting dissolved in the Purusha that is in the body. So, these are forces. So, Vitarka, in Vitarka stage, there is the gyana, there is the awareness of the gross instrument of Samadhi. Using these, I reached that state of merger with that. It can be only the tanmatras. But those who are doing the yoga, they should begin first with the object. But this prajna, it should be tanmatras, not the object. So they can take a gross thing, like an apple. Now, if the pranayama is going perfectly, pranayama, then 12 pratyahara, then 12 dharana, then the yogi is simply focusing on the apple. And apple is on a plate. The plate is in the house or is in the table. All this will come. But the yogi who has done this 12 dharana on this apple, when he sits for Samadhi, nothing will come to him, only that apple. From gross subject, then he will go to the subtle. This, there should be no object. Only he has to concentrate on the object, any object. Here, we are told you meditate on the form of a guru, you meditate on the form of your God. These are all nothing but vitarkanugata. Means using an external object for dissolving his consciousness or the chit, so that only that object is remaining. When this becomes stable, that whenever you want, wherever you want, with a few seconds of your concentration, you are able to be linked with that object. You are not struggling. Then you are ready for the second layer of this asampragyanta or the Savikalpa Samadhi, second stage, that is vicharanugata. Here, sukma, the subtle, that was the gross object. Here it will be the object, but it is subtle. It is not really there. And for the jnanis, the jnani does not begin with any gross object. He straightway begins with this subtle tanmatra. He is not supposed to focus on a burning lamp. He is simply focusing on this Agni itself. This tanmatra. Kit apa teja marut vyama. He is focusing this teja itself, the all-pervading. He is focusing on the light, but not on sun. He is focusing on Agni, but not on a burning lamp, not a burning candle. That is the gyana sense. So, gross and subtle. Vitarka state is gross, material. Then, vichara stage is subtle, tanmatra. Now, go to the third stage, that is the anandanugata. Ananda is a state of experience of the chit joined with the sat. When the chit and the sat are joined together, linked together, what the yogi experiences is called ananda. So when the yogi has done continuous practice of this samadhi, which begins with the vitarka stage, proceeds to the vichara stage, that is begins with the gross, proceeds to the subtle, objective gross, objective subtle. Then it goes to the adhyatmic, the spiritual side. Gross is gone. Then it's coming gross spiritual. Next is the subtle spiritual. That is the anandanugata and asmitanugata. So, At this stage, the yogis, they get linked with the God of their heart or the Guru in a form. And the link produces a state of a profound bliss. But the Guru is not there, God is not there. At this stage, the yogi doesn't feel the need to go to a temple to see the God of his heart. Does not need to remain in the physical presence of the Guru. He is able to experience the bliss of the being. So, Ananda Anubhava, Ananda Anugata. So there is a form, but that form is not in gross, it is in subtle. Where it is inside you, it is in your consciousness. You are linked with that. When you are able to experience this in your waking plane of consciousness, and you are experiencing the ananda, but not happiness. Happiness and ananda are different. This is why those who are pursuing the gyana path, they must have conceptual clarity. Otherwise, they will be confused and they will think happiness as ananda or ananda as happiness. No. Happiness is the union of the object with the senses. That produces happiness. But ananda is not union of the object with your God. Ananda is the union of the chit with the sat. That is ananda. So whenever a yogi is able to link his chit with the sat, that is through another form which is not grossly present with him, with her, but is able to be linked. That is called Anandanugata. That is the third stage of a Sampradhyana Samadhi or Savikalpa Samadhi. We get so much bliss, we are in Ananda when we think of, say, like Vishnu, Krishna, Shiva. Why it is called Samadhi? Because here organ is not involved at all. Someone asked me, I get Ananda when I think of my beloved wife. It is not Ananda, it is happiness. You are experiencing happiness. But when you are experiencing the divine Mahasakti that is inside your beloved, if when you are getting linked with that Mahasakti, that is called Ananda. That time whether your beloved wife is with you or has gone, it makes no difference. Third stage, this is Anandanubhava. Then there is a fourth stage of this Asampragyana Samadhi or Savikalpa Samadhi. That is Asmitanugata. When there is no gross form, no subtle form, you are simply beyond everything. Neither God is there nor Guru is there. You are experiencing Atmarati. You are seeing Atmajyoti. This will be a continuous state of experiencing the awareness. And when you are dealing with the gross world, it goes, but it goes only for that amount of time when you are actually involved in that. But the moment you are not there, it comes back to you. If this has happened, you are experiencing Asmitanugata Samadhi, or the fourth layer of Savikalpa Samadhi, Asampragyana Samadhi. So, at this stage, you are beyond tanmatras. No more tanmatra is there. Only the awareness is there. But who is experiencing? You experiencing. What you are experiencing? You are experiencing your own asmita, your own all-pervading awareness. This is the final stage of the Savikalpa. It's a very, very esoteric concept. It is not possible actually to give complete knowledge because it is not something to be understood. It is something to be experienced. And those who are able to maintain this state of asmitanugata samadhi, asmitanubhava, and if they continue this, automatically they go to the last phase of samadhi, that is called nirvikalpa samadhi, when the asmita is also gone. There will be no I to experience the I. No asmita is there. When asmita is completely transcended, that is nirvikalpa or nirvija samadhi. Up to savikalpa, there is a chance that whenever the yogi is descending too much to this objective world, his consciousness, his chit, also descends. But if it is just a casual descent, for a short time descent, just for functional necessity, just for discharging a duty or responsibility, the chit is not getting delinked from the sat. That's why, whatever may be the nature of the action that the yogi is doing, that his ananda bhava is not getting reduced. But that does not mean that he will not be able to judge whether something is right or wrong, that he will not be able to discipline an erring child or a careless subordinate. Not that. He does not lose any power, rather he gets supernatural power. So what would have been necessary to achieve with a shouting or screaming or punishment or threatening or this, nothing will be necessary. Simply a transmission, a look is enough. That is the state. So, because re-entry into sansara means re-entry to the experience of the objective world is possible. Possibility of re-entry is there. That is why it is called Sabeeja Samadhi. Means the seed is still there. Seed of what? Seed of sansara is still there. It may not be there in your previous life because it's all burnt. Unless all are burnt, one cannot experience this is third state of Savikalpa. What to talk of the fourth stage of Savikalpa? Unless the previous sanskaras are completely burnt, the third stage of Savikalpa Samadhi is not possible. Anyone who is experiencing the third stage of Savikalpa or Asampagyat Samadhi means no previous life sanskar is there. What is there is this life's sanskaras. So, these life's sanskaras, because it is there, when the yogi gets involved in this sansara, which is nothing but a life of sanskara, if this involvement is there longer than necessary, there is a chance that the chit which has more with the sat will be delinked and the yogi will again come back to the sansaric experience. So this is the reason it is said that your sadhana is not complete 100% until you have transcended Savikalpa, until you have established in a Nirvikalpa. Once you have established in a Nirvikalpa, your re-entry and your exit can happen with a lightning speed. You will not struggle to descend. You will not take any time to transcend. That is the Nirvikalpa Bhava, that is the Purushottam consciousness, that is the concept we are actually trying to understand. That is the state we are trying to reach. That is Beyond Yogasiddhi.